We all know the stereotype. The Nigerians are confident, outgoing, smart, ambitious. The list goes on. And realistically, we do stand strong and proud and we present wherever we go. But underneath all of this glory, there is a subtle inferiority complex that plagues the larger African or Nigerian society. And this is something that I think a lot of us have come to ignore. Hey guys, welcome back to my YouTube channel. And this, if this is your first time here, welcome. So this is episode 6 of my YouTube series called Voice in My Head, where I talk about everything and anything that's going up here. Sometimes I talk fast, sometimes I talk slow. Depends on how I feel. So please stick with me and bear with me. Right. So today I'm going to be talking about the inferiority complex of Nigerians, and that is shocking because it's a great contrast from what we know or have come to know about Nigerians. I'm a Nigerian and I'm talking from a Nigerian's point of view. And if you are also from any other African country, any other part of the world, I think you should also stick with me to, learn one or two or see if you agree or disagree with me. I do have a list here with me, and it contains some of the things that I think shows the insecurity of Nigerians. And the reason why I want to do this video is because a couple of days back, Nigeria celebrated Independence Day. Yeah. And we have a history of colonialism. And I believe that such great social impacts don't just go away, they leave footprints. And some of these footprints are detailed here, and that shows the inferiority of Nigerians. Let's get right into the list. So the first thing I have here is language. Yes, Nigeria is a country that houses over 250 ethnic groups and that speak over 500 languages, if I'm correct. And as such, we're a very complex society. It only makes sense then that we have a universal language or official language for us all to use in communicating. And that language is English, which was brought to us during the period of colonialism, right? And while that makes sense, and that is all good and fine per se, it is not justified, or it does not justify the mockery of people who cannot speak English language. Nigerians have made it their mission to always laugh at people or mock people who can only speak pidgin English and their ethno languages or their native or local dialect. It does not make sense that you would equate somebody's inability to speak the English language to stupidity or unintelligence. It just shows a greater level of insecurity or inferiority rather. And I also see this when a lot of Nigerians or even other Africans will mock or laugh at K stars when they struggle to speak English. You fail to realize that these people produce movies and sing songs in their language, and all of us who are their fans or their viewers have come to accept that language. And some of us have even picked up little phrases and words from watching their movies. Yet we laugh at them or mock them that they cannot speak English language. A lot of us don't even know how to speak our native language or ethnic languages, and yet we mock other people who do so proudly. This is just a sign of inferiority. And under that, I would also like to double down that the mockery of people who have strong accents based on their ethno languages or wherever they are from. For example, somebody who has a strong Ijebu accent or a Badon accent, or I don't know, Edo accent whenever they are speaking English language. I see no reason why you should laugh at them. And honestly, I was once part of these people. Whenever I see somebody speaking English and I can hear, the accents that they're using to speak, I'll be like, this person can even speak English, and I'll be so foolish to laugh at them. It shows inferiority. Why am I laughing at somebody who can speak their own language very well? It just diminishes that person's language and uplifts the European language, and this language is better off than the other one. So there's a comparison, not even a comparison. It's a comparison where this one is obviously better than the other. It looks down on native language, and it is also doubled down. This is far worse when the ethnic languages of Nigerians are known as vernacular in secondary schools, where people would speak their ethno languages and we would mock them. Teachers would flog them and punish them for speaking their ethnic languages in the school building or the school environment. It diminishes that language, and that's why a lot of our languages are dying because we have grown to look down on it. This is a great indicator that we have a great level of insecurity and inferiority, and this is something that we have not taken our time to address seriously. The next is architecture. Now, this one is a little, it's not really that deep, but I've seen a lot of times when Westerners would mock Africans and say, "Oh, you guys live on trees and live in mud houses." Excuse me. You guys live on trees and live in mud houses, and Nigerians and Africans in a bid to defend us would point to our cities and say, "Look, we have skyscrapers in Nigeria. Look at Lagos, look at Abuja, there are skyscrapers there." Even I am not staying in a hut right now. But I don't think that hut should be looked at as less than. In pre-modern societies, every society and community had their own architectural structures that was as a result of their weather, their climate, and their social and cultural life. So it does not make sense that we should diminish huts and those kind of houses just because we want to show these people that, oh, we are also westernized, and we also, and I know that globalization plays a lot of um role in the kind of architecture that we have in Africa and other African societies, but we should not look down at on huts or any other Nigerian structures, if that makes sense. We should only be concerned on maybe rural areas where the houses are not that good and governments are not paying attention to them, and the housing issues that we should be paying attention to. Or if we're going to look down on huts and other African structures, doesn't make sense at all. Doesn't. The next is going to be clothing. Yeah, clothing. I think the Nigerian, it's a two-way thing. Actually, it's two sides of the coin, because I think Nigerians are very proud of African prints and Ankara, Ajiri, Ashiki, and the rest. They're very proud of it. But whenever it's time to show that outfit or that fabric in some setting, it is looked down upon. So let's say somebody wears African prints to school. There are still students who would mock that person. Ah, I'm a native, because we call it native in Nigeria. See, when a native, now this person here come school. Meaning, is it native this person is wearing to class? It does not make sense that you would think this person is poor or broke because they are wearing African prints to attend the lecture. Or you invite somebody out and the person wears African prints out. Yeah, why are you disgracing me? Why would you wear Ankara to this kind of function? And it is a beautiful Ankara. It shows that we look down on African prints and African fabrics. I don't know if that makes sense. But I think that shows inferiority, in my opinion. It doesn't make sense that you look down on somebody or you believe that somebody does not have money because they are putting on Ankara or whatever African prints it is that they are putting on. That doesn't make sense. It's like you've limited African prints like church wears and casual wears and not to certain places, like maybe like a fancy restaurant and the rest. And this is not in my list, but I was talking about Ankara and African prints. I just thought about it. Hair. Somebody, there was a conversation one time on how it doesn't make sense to take your natural hair to certain places. And if you see somebody just have their natural hair out and maybe they pack it in some kind of beautiful way, they are being looked at as poor and broke because they are not putting on, I don't know, wigs or like attachment braids. If they just leave out their maybe like afro or some kind of puff or something, you look down on them. The hair that's grown out of their scalp. That is inferiority. The next I have is table etiquette. Ha, this is a big conversation. I believe, no, I know that table etiquette or table manners is more cultural than global. What that means is that it's each table manner or table etiquette reflects the culture that somebody comes from. So it's almost a sin per se to buy cup noodles, Korean cup noodles or Chinese cup noodles, and eat it with a fork. you're expected to use a chopstick. So even if you grew up in a society that where you did not have to use chopsticks, you have to learn it because you are going to eat a Korean or an Asian dish that uses chopstick. Does that make sense? So I see no reason why some of our African or Nigerian movies, especially the ones on YouTube, they portray a family having a meal where they are eating pounded yam and egusi, for example, and they're using a fork and a knife because they want to show or present that family as wealthy. And wealth to them is synonymous to European standard of doing things. Why would somebody be eating swallow and soup with a fork and a knife? That doesn't make sense. And a couple years back, I saw a post, a Facebook post from a lady who was invited to a wedding and she was offered jollof rice and chicken. And they gave her a spoon. She went in search of a fork and a knife to eat. And her message was wherever we go, we should always be present. And then it was weird to me that that was the message. And even now, it's more weird. What do you mean you had to go look for a fork and knife to eat food? He offered you spoon. Use a spoon. It's just like eating leaf rice. I don't know if you know leaf rice. I'll put a picture. Izoku, that's what we call it. And you are looking for fork and knife to eat leaf rice. Something that you wash your hand and follow up. Or you get rubber spoon and use it. And you know this iron spoon that if you do like this, the thing will bend to follow you. Oh my god, as I'm saying it, I'm visualizing it up in my head. But I see no reason why you should look down at using spoons and using your hand to eat because you should use fork and knife. Or maybe you're being invited out by friend or somebody to a restaurant and you ask for pounded yam and egusi. I love pounded yam and egusi, so I keep saying it. And you're asking for a bowl so you can wash your hand and dig in. And somebody looks at you like, is this your first time going out? People are looking at you weird. You're in a fancy restaurant, why are you using your hand? To me, it shows inferiority. Why can't I use my hand to eat swallow and soup? Why do I have to use it for coming in? We are losing our culture because we are trying to imitate Westerners. And I know that we have history of colonialism, and when such period passes, it doesn't just pass like that. It leaves footprints, and those footprints is it reflects in what I'm saying right now, in how we mock people's accents, and how we mock people who are eating with their hands, and how we mock people who are wearing Ankara or African print. It just shows how inferior we are. These are the traits, and every day we continue to reinforce those things, and we have to continuously pride ourselves as confident, and it doesn't make sense. It's very contradictory. The next one is going to be some of our beliefs or myths. Some of the stories we tell kids. And one that is particularly struck me recently is I don't understand why a Nigerian would tell their kid the story Tooth Fairy. What's the business of a Nigerian kid with Tooth Fairy? Now, this is not to diminish Tooth Fairy. That's the myth of Westerners. We have our own myths as Nigerians. I was told as a kid that once your tooth breaks, you take it, you go outside, you throw it on the roof, and wait for a lizard to swallow it and give you a new one, or whatever animal it was you were told as a kid. And that was the story. You would always wait for when your tooth, there's a time, I think from age 5 or 6, thereabout, where kids lose their milk teeth and start growing other ones. So whenever you see your older siblings, they've experienced that routine. You're always waiting for your turn when your tooth will fall out so you could do the same thing. And you're always it's an exciting experience. I remember one that stuck with me when I think I'm one or so. I went to go and buy chin chin, and that chin chin was as strong as rock. And as I was going to dig into it, I already had a tooth that was shaking. That tooth fell off. I searched everywhere, I could not find it. I was scared. I will never be able to get this tooth to take up over and throw on the roof. That tooth will never go again. I was terrified. My guy, everybody was making me scared. You have a hole. Those are the kind of fears we should instill in our future generation. What am I not trying to say? Those are the kind of stories that you'd be able to have. I have that story now because my friends told me that throw it on the roof. The same way in Westerner we have their stories of tooth fairy and the rest. We should all have our stories based on the myths that we grew up with. So I see no reason why a Nigerian kid should be told tooth fairy story rather than the throwing on the roof and all of that. It's a Nigerian child experience. And Taking away that and replacing it with a European one tells me that you have insecurity or you feel inferior. There's a high level of inferiority complex to me because you see yours as primitive doesn't make sense. But a fairy, that makes sense. So the last I have here, names. I started strong, I'll be ending strong. Names. Of recent, a lot of parents, whenever they're expecting a child, they go on Google to go ask, oh, what are beautiful girl names? What are beautiful boy names that I should give my kid? And you would see a child bearing a particular name, and you ask the parent, what does this name mean? They tell you, oh, according to Google, it's a Greek name that means light of the world, or it's a Latin name that means the pearl of the eye, something, something, sha. It can be a beautiful meaning, but I don't know why you are looking for Greek, Latin, Jewish, easy names. What happened to your language? Wetin do Benin name? Wetin do Esan name? Wetin do Yoruba name? Wetin do what happened to the language? And the worst are those whose name and surname are foreign. How will somebody's name be Elizabeth Johnson? If you're an Elizabeth Johnson, please, this video is not for you, I beg. But I cannot even tell where you're from. I have to start guessing what ethnic group you are from because your parents decided to give you foreign name and surname. And you're saying, oh, this does not matter. It's not that deep. As a being person, would you give your child an Yoruba name? Because you feel that people would assume your child is Yoruba. Oh, but it makes sense to go and be Googling Greek name. Wetin concern you concern Greek people? Do you have any Greek person in your family? Would you, as an Yoruba person, go and give your child, um, let's say, Hausa surname? Because people would assume that that child is Hausa or from an Hausa name. It makes sense if you're maybe a Benin person, give your child Yoruba name because your mother is Yoruba or the child's mother is Yoruba. Small family member Sha is Yoruba. Or one friend that did something for you is Yoruba and you're just using it to remember that person. That makes sense. There's a story behind it. But it's not frequent. So I don't understand why parents nowadays are naming their kids English names and surnames. It reflects, in my opinion, inferiority complex. So that's the list I have here. If you have others that you think you want to add, or if you have others that you want to add to the list I have here, please do so in the comment section. And if you want to argue with me and say, no, it's not that deep, that's not what it means, these are, times are changing, you have to evolve and all of that, also share your opinions and I'm ready to argue with you. I will not argue with you, I don't have energy. But that's that for this review. I just hope this was an interesting one and this made you to stop and think and see if you've ever been a victim of anyone. As I said before, I used to mock people who had an accent or who would speak English with an accent. I'd be like, hey, this person cannot speak English. I just feel like it's a time for us all to reflect on some of the things that we are continuously reinforcing. Somebody is eating with their hands. I see no reason why you should mock them. I see no reason why you should even be eating to fork and nothing to swallow and soup. I see no reason why you should mock somebody who's wearing Ankara because I love native prints. And sometimes people will be looking at you one kind because you are going out and you're wearing it. It doesn't make sense. And also the idea that if you are into like all these native prints and all that, you are woke. That's just weird. All the same, that's all for this video. See you in the next one. Bye.